Right.
Could be better this way.
Well, everybody, it's good to have you together. My name is Jim Marshall from the 911 Training Institute. We have Ryan Dedmon from the Training Institute, our outreach director. But the stars of our day here are really the Stevens County folks. And I'm going to ask Ryan to go ahead and introduce them, if you will, and then bring us into how we got together, what this is about. That would be really, really great. Hi, everybody. Glad you're here.
Hello.
Hi. So maybe a better job is to invite Danielle Rhodes, the director, to maybe we can do a quick roundtable of everyone who's on with us. And if we could do like maybe name and years of service there, how would that be?
That'd be great.
I noticed how Ryan just got out of the job. Do you notice how
He did. He totally just delegated that to me.
Beautiful. All right. Go ahead then.
I'm Danielle Rhodes. I've been with Stevens County for 4 years in June. This is Caitlin Phillips.
Oh, how long have you been here?
I've been here 2 months.
Wow.
Sherry Tritt, 14 years.
Hi, Carrie.
Alicia Phillips, about a year.
Very good.
And then I'll let Brandy and Lindsay introduce themselves.
I'm Lindsay Bronner, and I've been back at Stevens County 2 years, 11 years, and now one altogether.
Very good.
Brandy Laning. I've been back at Stevens County for about 1.5 years and 8 years altogether in 911.
Oh, welcome back. So here's what happened. COVID-19 pandemic has presented everyone in the world with very unique challenges, specifically over the last 6 weeks. However, you all at Stevens County have faced extraordinary circumstances as a result of those challenges, and that's actually what brings us all together here today, because we wanted to invite you to join with us in having a discussion about the challenges that you all faced over the last couple of weeks at your center. So Danielle, can you give us some context and some background of what happened?
Sure. So we actually, after we got back from GECC this year, COVID was just starting to ramp up. So we started thinking about, what would we do if one of us tested positive or if more of us tested positive? Would we need to quarantine in place? Would we need to bring in sick people? I mean, how would we? Because there's no guideline. There's nothing out there that tells you this is the best way. So we started talking early March about what we would do, and then really just started putting things in place. We were almost equipped at the center for overnight stays, but we needed things like a washer and a dryer and sleeping quarters. We have room, we just didn't have the actual beds. So I went shopping one day and just bought all that stuff and just stored it here until when and if we needed it. So when we had one employee that came in sick one day, was presenting with a cough, and told her I really didn't think she had it, told her to go home, be tested, just so we could have a peace of mind. And sure enough, she came back with it. And so we just implemented our plan from there.
By the way, how are your employees doing? Like,
they're all great. Everybody's got a negative test, and they are coming back over the weekend. One starts Friday and one will be here over the weekend. So they're both really excited to get back to work.
Okay, good.
Well, and when you can end up with all negative tests and positive attitudes, that's quite a combination. And I just want to jump in here and say that this is Ryan Dedmon's fault that we're having this meeting, because some people weren't here when we discussed the background. Thank you, Danielle, for sharing so far the background. And before we engage the rest of the folks here who we can see, Ryan's job as our outreach director is to pay attention to what's happening out there and support 911. And what we wanted to do was recognize that the way you guys have rolled through this, as Ryan has said, while the media covered the COVID aspects of this, they didn't get into what the real story is. We think at the Training Institute, the real story here is the humans, the 911 dispatchers, and how you travel together through this experience, being what I call the sequestered, in the 911 center. So I just think we want to, our purpose and our desire here in this time we have together is to have you guys teach us what this was like, not in the way that the public, say, "Ooh, tell me about your worst call," and you want to throat punch them. Not that way, right? But from the standpoint of saying, what has this been like traveling through this when you're dealing with a combination of worry for family, worry for performance, worry for each other? If you can just maybe walk us through and take your time, and don't share what you're not comfortable sharing. Just share what you feel comfortable sharing with this. All right. And then we'll go from there. How's that sound?
Sounds good.
Everybody
Works
okay with
for
that?
me. Yep, we're all good.
All right. Okay. Well, Danielle, you want to just call people out and they can pass if they want to pass?
Sure, I'll let Lindsay and Brandy go first. They were a part of the first week's rotation, so they did the first week here, and then they've been at home all week. And then the ones that I have here, this is their last day on the rotation, so I'll let them go next. If y'all want to go first, go ahead.
Okay, Danielle, as I recall it, we were actually leaving the 911 center to go take a vehicle up to the courthouse, and she gets the call that our employee was tested positive. So we turn around, we go back in the room and break the news to the rest of the shift. And so then we're like, okay, what do we do now? Thankfully, we had planned for all of it, and it kind of all fell into place. We started getting the beds out, getting things taken care of, and figuring out who was going to be on what schedule and what hours, if we were going to break down to 8-hour shifts or continue on 12-hour shifts. And we just kind of rolled it out and weighed out our options and called the people that weren't there to see what they wanted. We went to the grocery store to get food for everything. Danielle also got a freezer to get food provided to all of us while we were there for those days.
Hey, Lindsay, so
Yes.
you guys work 3/12s?
We work 12-hour shifts, but it's 2 days on, 2 days off, 3 days on, 2 days off, every other weekend, Saturday, Sunday, Monday.
Okay, and how many are working at a time on a shift?
3 per shift is what it's approved for, but we've got 2 right now on most of the shifts. Some of the shifts have 3.
Okay.
We did break it down to 2 per shift during this.
So you guys are a really small center.
We're a small agency.
Okay.
Which, by the way, is about 70% of our centers in the U.S. So you represent, and it does go to the point that the demands of our centers, we tend to think, oh, big center, big call volume, they have a more stressful job. Well, even folks in the urban centers will say that's not necessarily true. It's really all, level because it's different. And you might have it handed to you with just 2 of you there for a call volume that's, proportionally just as heavy as it might be in an urban center. But if we back this up a little bit, so for you 2 guys, I don't want to make this into a psychological evaluation. I'm not going to do that to you. But I do wonder, can you tell me, like, what was some of the thinking going on inside your head? Like, okay, looks like here we go. We're going to be here, and here we are. Now we're there, and like it's sleeping in our own comm center. Now it's day 2 and night 2, and what was some of the challenge there?
I think we tried to make the best of it. We were thankful that we had Danielle who helped prepare us for it. Although I think at times we did worry about our families. We weren't going to see our kids for that time. And I think that was the biggest struggle for me. I have 2 kids, and but I also knew that it was the best thing for us at the time to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, and I have a teenager, and my husband is in law enforcement. He's the major in the county connecting to us. So it was actually best for us to be quarantined down there so that he's not affected, exposed to what I was possibly exposed to. And because he still has to be out on the road. So
Mm-hmm.
it gave time to make sure that didn't happen.
Yeah. Okay.
Mm.
Yeah. And Danielle, any thoughts for you as a leader? I mean, there's a lot of responsibility to travel through something like this, which is unprecedented. And, it's kind of like active shooter. You go through the training, you do the drills, but it may never happen. In this situation, you've drilled and trained maybe something like this, but like, what was this like has this been like for you in terms of the demand, the stress, It
was complicated, and it was stressful at times. I think what was important to me is to involve them in the decision instead of just coming in here and saying, this is what we're doing. You know, when we started planning, we went over all kinds of different scenarios, and we had a plan A, B, C, and D. And what happens if, you know, I involved them in the discussion and I didn't hide anything. You know, if they asked me questions and I didn't know, I told them I didn't know, that, you know, this is new territory. We're all just kind of feeling it through. And, you know, I worried about them being down here that long without going home. And I worried that, you know, they would be miserable, but so far it seems to have worked out pretty well. I know it's not being at home, but they seem to have fared it very well.
Now, did you order and do pickup on only the finest foods like 5-star restaurants and, you know, surf and turf? Were you bringing in champagne? Like, how did you like?
I did ask them for lists, you know, of their favorite stuff. I know that Sherry, she enjoys Monster drinks, so we made sure to get her kind of drinks and what everybody wanted, and they sat down and planned their meals so we would have that stuff. And I told them, I said, if, you know, if there's something that comes up in this time, let me know, I'll go get it. I was the only one that was coming in and out, so if I needed to get something or something needed to be handled outside the facility, I could do that, but also bring stuff in. So anything that they needed, you know, I would drive out and get or bring it to them. Or, you know, I allowed them to visit with their families here as long as their families did not come in and they wore masks when they had contact with them. So they were able to come in, but nobody has been allowed in the center other than maintenance personnel for 2+ weeks now.
Wow. You know, Ryan, I'm gonna let you jump in here, but you know what strikes me? We have some learning points right here that are super valuable. I think of the letters D, S, and R. So in the United Kingdom, they did studies on where stress was in work environments and what produced the stress. What are the variables? And what they found was a stress is in the form of demand. So you guys had demand placed on you. And some of that demand was you're in place, you're 24/7 at the comm center. But then there's variables that influence that. So another one is support. So Danielle, what you've done is provided the kind of support that your people have needed during this. And I see a head nod in there. So like that mitigates some of the impact of demand, right? And then relationships. You guys described you were sensitive to the relationships and how this is impacting relationships. That's really huge too. So it's not just what we go through, it's how you lead through it as well. So I don't want to embarrass you, Danielle, but I think this is a case in point for traveling through hard things if we honor how we manage those conditions, work conditions. And I'm thinking about those people who are in your room right there. I'm curious about hearing their side of the story. Okay, you guys. Huh? Yeah, out with it.
I loved it. We had a personal shopper. We have a maid. We have a new washer and dryer. We have shower to ourselves. Nobody knocking on the door. So it's been wonderful for us. It's been a vacation. Plus, we have, if it gets bad at night, then we know that everybody else is just down the hall and I can go get help. So that's really released some stress.
Ryan,
what are some other things that you guys did during this time to relieve that stress? So, you know, Danielle, you mentioned that you allowed family to come visit with certain stipulations, but like, what are some other things that you guys did to help mitigate some of those stressors you were experiencing?
We washed our cars.
Brady and I washed our cars one night. There's a old school track not far from the center, and we walked there a couple nights and got some exercise, and we
grilled out.
Yeah, we grilled out one night. We got somebody bring us a grill and we grilled out.
We scare each other.
What do you mean?
We got some pranks going on.
What do you mean you guys scared each other?
We're not used to anybody else being in the building. So we walk back through there and somebody walks out of the bathroom and it's, oh yeah, scary.
That's really, who else is hiding in that room with the yellow walls? Yes, ma'am. What do you have to say for yourself?
It's been a great experience. My family, they weren't as affected as some other families because I was prior military. So they're used to me being gone for long periods of time, and I'm used to being away from my family. So I've had some great coworkers and friends here with me. So it's been a good experience.
Yeah.
Thank you for your service, ma'am.
Yes. Thank you, all of you guys. And so, what this brings up for me is, as I've done podcasts and webinars on this through COVID for different organizations and groups, one thing I found myself saying, realizing over and over again as a mental health professional, and then there's you. We're going to get you next, young lady. Good. I'm buying you a minute here, so you'll be really prepared. But one of the things I found myself saying over and over again was, we bring to COVID-19 whatever we carried into it. In other words, whatever stress skills we had, resilience skills, mindset that we had, that's what we're going to end up dealing from while we try to go through this weird COVID-19 experience. So it really does speak to you guys as a group and individually to levels of resilience that you've had. And so, are you last but not least?
I am.
Well, lay it out for us. What's your experience about this?
I have enjoyed it. I'm a trainee, so I'm new. When I signed up for this job, I definitely was not expecting this, but I've enjoyed all of it. I like being here the 7 days in a row. I've learned a lot through this. Normal rotation. I would learn something, and then I would be off a couple of days, come back in, and be like, oh, wait a minute, how do I do that? But being here 7 days, I've picked up on a lot very quick. I would think so anyways, but
Wait, your coworkers are talking. What are you saying there?
She had to learn
She
it.
had to learn it.
We had storms come through and we threw her to it.
Wow. Yeah, just immersion. It's like learning a language by immersion, right? You just have to complete 24/7, live and breathe it. Very, very
She
cool.
did.
Yeah. That's really cool. Ryan, what are you thinking?
Well, I was thinking as you guys all talk about this, when we throw around the term thin gold line very loosely, and we use that in an attempt to articulate and describe our relationship among one another in service together. But you guys really demonstrate the family bond that can be built, because it goes beyond now just being coworkers who we work a job together. But now you're actually, you've proven over the last 2 weeks that you are a family.
We really are. And, partly it's interesting that I feel like this has brought everybody closer. We were fairly close to start with, but I feel like it's brought teams and employees even closer together, having to spend as much time together. And, the good thing for me is I have a good group of people. They didn't complain. Now when I wasn't around, they might have, but when I'm around, they haven't complained.
Smart.
They've really had good attitudes. They've rolled their sleeves up, and they've just handled what they've been dealt. I mean, before we went into shelter in place, we had a tornado roll through. So I mean, we've had a lot of hits, and they've always showed up, stepped up when I've needed them to. I have a good group of employees, and I'm proud to be their leader.
So cool. We can think about the reality. That we don't choose our real families or our original families, our blood families. And it is what you get, but south of heaven, all of our families are just, we got our own stuff, but we don't choose our work families either. I mean, in a way you could say the leader chooses it, but what you become as a family is really up to everybody. And it's really cool to see you guys, be able to literally see you right now and see you as a family. And it's not about being perfect, and we're not trying to elevate Stevens County above anybody. It's more celebrating, look, here's one of our comp centers. Look at what happens. Look on the inside for you guys as humans and see how you really roll. Ryan, like you said, this is bringing the faces to the thin gold line. I'm wondering, you guys, what before COVID-19, what are some of the things that help you with morale as a center? And I don't want to make that sound like a wonky question. In other words, what makes it feel okay or good to be there, to like your job, to be able to feel like there's somewhat of a healthy relationship among people there?
Danielle listens.
Exactly. That's exactly.
Wow.
Anything we suggest, she listens.
Very interesting. Do you notice there was
We are
zero
very
pause?
blessed.
You're very blessed. Wow. Yes?
There's no fear in asking questions. you don't have to worry about anybody thinking, wow, that's a silly question. It doesn't matter what your questions are. There's going to be an answer, and if they don't know it, they'll find out for you. They don't make you feel any type of way about asking questions.
You know what? Okay, keep loading up, you guys, if you have some more. But while we're loading up, I want to make a response to that. Come on back. Where'd she go? There you are. You know, I've been in places where I feared as an employee to ask a question. Some of you may have been. When we are afraid to ask a question, what's that about? What makes it sometimes feel like I'm not asking questions? I don't want to ask a question because if I ask the question,
They make you feel stupid. I mean,
yeah,
people
they
can
make you feel like intimidate you, like you don't, and it affects you learning. If you can't ask the question, then how are you going to know how to do it?
yes. Yeah, and I asked that,
and that goes for everybody too, right? Not just your trainees, but even your most seasoned veteran people, because you start to feel like, man, I've been doing this job for so long, like I should know the answer and I should know how to do this.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, and my reason for asking that wasn't because I'm trying to critique other directors or leaders out there, but more to really bring value to more the power to your statement. It's like, okay, where's Danielle now? Where are you hiding? There you are. So you're a leader that people feel they can ask questions. And I just want to say, as somebody who trains 911, that's a trickle down power, because if they feel like they can ask you questions, you're teaching those supervisors, those trainers, that it's okay for their people to ask questions too. And this is a huge aspect of creating a powerful, healthy culture. The other thing is, I noticed that Danielle, what you said, and I know you weren't aware we were going to embarrass you like this, but another thing I heard you say is, I include them in the decision making. I got their input. I invited them to render opinions about what we were going through. Did I get that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And, I mean, even down to making a list of the stuff that we would need at the store. I mean, we sat on shift together and we'll need shampoo and this and this and this. And she went to the store and got it. And it wasn't just, I'm asking this person. It was, I mean, we called other people that weren't there to get their input if there was anything they needed. And it was just across the board. I think the communication was really key in making it go smoothly.
Anybody else? What else you thinking?
Anybody?
Aha.
You're new. Come on.
I don't know.
That's okay. That's okay. I just want to make sure there's an opportunity. Here's the thing now. R and D. Let me come back to those two letters. I didn't give you the R yet. For the United Kingdom's way of studying stress and helping organizations with stress, the R is your role. If you think your role is, I'm the peon, I don't make decisions, I follow decisions, that's a disempowered role. You're not going to respond to C, change, nearly as well, because it impacts you. It rolls over you. You're not riding the wave with it because you've been a part of the decision making. So when you face demand and your role, the way your leader shares the role with you of decision making, you can handle change better. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and that's what we're seeing lived out. This is not a fluke that you guys are healthy right now. There are principles here of successful management of stress, and you happen to be honoring those principles, whether you ever knew about a 6 conditions model or not. Mm-hmm. It's better to be living it than have wonky letters like me. Yeah. What else is there right now? Anything off the top of your heads? We've got more to ask and more to engage, but
I think a lot of what helped me get through it is it was 4 of us staying there at a time when I was there last week. I think a lot of what helped us was just encouraging each other, even if it was a silly countdown, 3 down, 4 to go, I think we just encouraged each other as a whole and pitched in and did what we needed to do. So whether it was cooking or cleaning something up around there, we did have a TV in the sleeping quarters where we're sleeping. And of course we had Netflix and whatever we wanted to watch back there. And that helped you wind down and make it feel not so much like work. You were able to have fun too.
Yeah. Very cool. Very cool. Ryan, any other thoughts from you?
So Jim, you asked them all about morale prior to COVID-19, and I'm kind of curious as to what this has done now since, because at face value, I think a lot of people might perceive this, and not just your center, but even in their own centers where they work, where, you know, this coronavirus pandemic has really hampered morale because it's made working conditions more challenging. But you all seem to have the complete opposite of that. So I'm wondering now, moving forward, as hopefully this pandemic starts to resolve itself and we return to some sense of normalcy and business as usual, if you
Right.
will.
Knock on wood. Yeah.
Yeah. How will your center move forward now with what you've learned?
Yeah.
It's always been
anybody.
business as usual. We haven't changed anything. I mean, other than cleaning and disinfecting and stuff. I mean, everything else is the same.
I think if anything, it's made us realize that we truly do have each other's back regardless, as a center as a whole. I mean, I think that may have boosted morale to an extent.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Because we do see how well, I mean, we've had to come together on other incidents that have happened within the center, but I think this has truly shown that we can do this. What can we not do?
That's a great question. It sounds like a statement. If we've done this, we can handle anything. That's really, really cool. And because that kind of ties together with, you know, the question, maybe you've already answered it, but jump in if you want. But what are you carrying with you from this experience that you want to be able to live out? And if anything else occurs to you, just jump in with that.
Anybody comment?
You good?
No.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you guys, this is just really wonderful to be with you. And I just a thought, and I'm going to ask Ryan to offer maybe a closing statement here too. Offer that up for you as well. But when you do what you do day in and day out, and kind of, you notice that last comment, just kind of did what we always did. And I was thinking to mine, yeah, except you were living in the comm center without going home for 2 weeks. Hello, there's that, you know. In case you didn't realize, that's a major stressor for most humans, not being in their own bed, not using their own toilet, not being able to go to their own refrigerator, know where everything is, not have somebody else stealing their food, whatever it is. But you saw the positives in this. Some of that is mindset, and some of that is based on the morale you've developed before you hit the major stressors. And that morale has to do with leadership. It also has to do with the quality of people and what your own values as workers are. And I just want to say, even though for you guys, you're like, well, we just did what we did. You know, that's what I usually get. If I compliment 911, I don't compliment unless I mean it. But how do you guys generally, as 911 family, suck at taking compliments? Like, right? It's like, you know, if somebody says, great job, really good job at the console, what do you often say?
Just did my job.
Doing my job.
Just doing my job. Look, as a brother of a dispatcher, I just want to say, you're just doing your job, and for the rest of us, that makes a life of difference. It makes a huge difference. Even for the little calls where you think it's an apparently stupid call, sometimes that person struggling with depression where they felt stupid for even making that call, they hang up and they're able to say, but they treated me with respect. Maybe I'm not a piece of garbage. Even those small calls where it doesn't seem like you did, quote, anything. And then we think that you're doing that day after day. I'm not trying to deify you guys, but I'm trying to say to you, it's just doing your job. But the reality is you are sustaining, and you're at the center of our whole emergency response center for this country, one town at a time. And I just want to thank you so much. Being able to train you guys is the privilege of a lifetime. And, you know, Ryan, having been there, you know, in California, he dispatcher par excellence, going through the PTSD he went through, and I see the man light up every time we're with 911. It's like, wow, like it's hair on fire, because there was a lot of love for you guys. So thank you so much for doing this. I think there's real value here in encouraging our other comm centers.
Yeah, and I'll piggyback on that, because I want to thank you too. Not as an outsider, but maybe as a former insider, if you will, because even as a former dispatcher, I cannot imagine what it would have been like living in the comm center where I worked, or any center for that matter. That's just not something that we ever plan on happening, and most of us just grunge at the thought of it. And it's because of the culture in our centers. And you guys have proven that to a large degree that we are responsible for that. We are responsible for creating the culture in our center. And that culture is what not just helped you sustain through this incident that you guys have faced the last couple of weeks, but you haven't just survived. You have thrived through it, and you have accomplished what all of us would hope we could on our best days. And you are the living proof that, you know, the 911 dispatchers are the best part of the emergency response system, because it's the human dispatcher that all of you are that is the best component. And, you know, the most advanced piece of technology could never, ever replace the job that you do. And I know you're sitting there, because I sit there too when Jim compliments me, like, oh, I'm just doing my job, and it's just a regular Tuesday afternoon at work.
Bounces off like Teflon.
Yeah, but it's not. And we want you to realize how thankful we are for your service, but then also for proving that challenges like this.
Rock and roll. Let's hear that music. Turn that up. Yeah. Keep it going, and there'll be background for the rest of Ryan's affirmation.
Yes. And for Act 2, right? No, you're fine. But we just want to thank you all for your service, and we wanted to highlight the extraordinary circumstances, but also the exceptional work that you guys did over the last couple weeks and coming together really as a family. So I think that's all we have on our part. If any of you have any closing thoughts or statements that you'd like to add really quick.
Yeah, now that us big mouths took up most of the time.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm good.
Anything?
No, I'm great.
All right.
Isn't that strange, Ryan? Look,
That
it's a
is.
phenomenon. 911 dispatchers without anything to say.
Without anything to say, right? This day. Mark this day.
Hey, listen, we love you guys, and we're cheering you on. We'll be sending up prayers for you, and we'll look forward to just following up and getting more news from you guys. And I know Ryan will be reaching back out to you as well. Remember that we're here for you. It's not just training. We offer support to dispatchers all over the country. I get contacts from people saying, hey, Marshall, you mentioned EMDR, a PTSD healing treatment. Where do I find that in my area? In other words, we're here. Just let us know if we can be supportive of you in any way. And so we are saluting you. We're taking off our invisible hats. There it is. And we'll talk to you later, guys.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
See you. You betcha. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.